Okay. All right. Let's start with the Cavs. So the Cavs have kept their core four in place so far this season. We've heard a lot of LeBron rumors. We've heard, maybe Garland's on the trade block, maybe Jared Allen's on the trade block. But what do you think of this team? The best team in the East last year get knocked out by a upstart Pacers team that went on an pretty crazy run. So what's your thoughts on the Cavs moving into 25, 26? Should they keep it together, or should they, trade a few pieces, shake things up?
I don't know if it's a should. I think it's probably like they have to.
Okay.
I think that because of the constraints of the second apron, I think they're probably going to have to keep that together. And I know that's a dangerous thing just because I think naturally they're supposed to try to get tougher, and I don't know exactly how that's supposed to go. So I think that for them, they got to figure out a way to try to make this thing work together as is. And I think that the way and it's worked together to a certain degree, obviously, but I think that the underrated thing of this, and I don't want to make too big a deal about it and hang my hat on it or anything, but I think it's something that we need to watch, is with Darius Garland's injury at the beginning of the year, what the offense does, and if it runs off of Evan Mobley instead.
Yeah,
because I think that that's going to be a key for Darius to understand and be a little bit more off ball. That Evan's going to need to be fed. Now, it's exactly what Donovan said, is where they're going to have to. Evan's going to have to call for it, and Evan's going to have to be more assertive with what he wants, what he wants out of the offense. But by the time that Darius is able to come back, I think that there's going to be there has to be some sort of a reality of it where this has to push through Evan if it's going to push any further. I mean, he has to be the best player on the floor. Donovan is great, but Donovan, I don't think, has the size like Evan does to be able to be that dominant of a player. He's a great player, but he's not dominant. Evan has to be that guy. Now, I don't know if Evan's going to be able to. I think, they only have 2 more years together.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have ourselves a bit of an issue here where Donovan's going to be 31. He might go into ring chase mode. He may opt out. Of course, that's a lot of money to opt out of. So, he'll have to make his decision. They're going to try to make it as nice as they can to try to keep him. But, I mean, we'll see what happens in 2 years. Maybe everybody will want to go their separate ways, and it'll have to be busted up, and we'll focus our efforts towards Evan, or we'll focus our efforts towards rebuilding the roster all over again. But I think that for them, it's just going to have to come naturally with them. And I think that's a scary thing to say, where you've had the Pacers, you had Boston last year, but I thought that they tried to play up to their level last year against Boston, so I'm not really going to kill them for that. And then this last year against Indiana was a total disappointment. So, 2 of the last 3 years have been embarrassing, I would say, for them. And there's really nowhere else to go in terms of moving contracts around to bring in guys that are really going to help. And I think it's made us think some crazy things here as far as trading Darius Garland for 35-year-olds, things like that, where I don't think 35-year-olds, guys who are in their upper 30s, not named LeBron James, I think that that's kind of made some people a little nervous about where this is going. And I think maybe we have focused too much on fit in terms of, hey, we still need to have the talent that's out there and
no doubt
have a chance to be able to get further in the postseason.
No doubt. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, one of the, regular season, one of the best offenses of all time. You do have 4 legit all-stars, maybe 2 legit superstars on your team. And, it's maybe keeping it together maybe isn't the worst thing if these guys can gel together over these next 2 years. But this year, it feels like such an important year for the direction of this franchise, whether it's, like you said, blow it up in 2 years and redo it, or just maybe retool some pieces. But yeah, I can see this going a lot of ways, but hopefully sticking it together is good.
I think this winter, depending on how things start, I think this winter we could see the very first, not in maybe it's before that. I mean, Donovan didn't get traded until September when they first traded for him. But I think maybe this winter is where we see the first movement of the core 4 of what they have. And I think probably the first person that would be the easiest one to move out of that would probably be Jared Allen. Now, what can they bring in for Jared Allen? I think it's all easier said than done, especially when you have the cap constraints that they have. But you have one guy who makes a reasonable salary to move. You have the other three guys that are basically maxed out. I think it's going to be very difficult to move on any of those guys because, we've said crazy things about some of the trades, but at the same time, I mean, you're paying so much more into the luxury tax now than what you did just a few years ago. And then there's also, okay, how many guys can you actually keep on the roster that are going to be worth it? So you go from a 10-man rotation during the regular season, maybe down to an 8-man rotation during the regular season. And I think that would affect Kenny Atkinson very much. So there's a needle that they have to thread. And I think that if there was any movement, I think it would probably be late in the game before the season starts or mid-season trade deadline. And the biggest piece that would possibly be moved would be Jarrett.
Okay. Do you think the Cavs would be in their best interest? Now, last year was maybe an anomaly. They lost all 3 games at home to the Pacers. So does that 1 seed even matter? Or is it best to kind of try to keep your guys healthy, which they did this season, and it kind of just bad timing, bad luck in the playoffs? So do they go for that number 1 seed again, or just get through the regular season healthy and get to the playoffs?
Well, they had I think they were 0-5 against Indiana through the whole year. They lost the 2 regular season games at home. So it's a bad matchup. It's a bad matchup. Now, it becomes easier, sad to say, because Tyrese Halliburton's going to be out for the year, so you kind of put Indiana on a shelf and see what they're going to do coming up in 26-27. That's in just a couple of years. So I think that the number 1 seed, I think that they do find home court important. I think that if you get to a Game 7 against a team that's of equal match to you, I think that it's important to get that game at home. But I also think in the grand scheme of things, I think we have to worry about the size of our players and where they're going to be at the end of the year. I think Donovan played a little bit gassed at the end of the year. And Donovan's still a guy who's only 6'3". And if you're putting that much on him, it's going to take that much out of him. So I still think they're trying to figure out exactly how to manage his minutes.
Okay.
And how to manage this basketball team with him. So I see them being they should be a top 4 seeded team next year, naturally. But I see them trying to be more in a preservation mode because I think that Donovan has fought that as well. I think he's a competitive guy. I think he's fought having to be sat at times. I think that he takes the load management thing pretty serious. But at the same time, you've heard him at the end of the year, and I think he's understood a little bit too late about what he's supposed to be and sitting and being the guy that's there for them at the end of the season rather than carry him through regular season games. I mean, the regular season just simply doesn't matter to them anymore. They have to get back to the postseason and figure out what works during the regular season, but get back to the postseason and make a run at this thing before it's too late.
No doubt. Well said.